Yeah, it'd probably help if I added myself to the stage. We are outside, chat. And I think there might literally only be 2 of you here. I don't know. Oh, no, 10. All right. I'm doing something new. I'm on my laptop. I'm on a microphone that I haven't used in years. And I just bought these headphones from Target. And this is absolutely blowing out my eardrums. I had to turn it all the way down. First, I mean, you're so not first though, is the thing. Kieran was definitely first, 100% first. Here, let's lower that a little bit. Yeah, backlighting is not ideal, is it? Oh well, maybe the sun will go down. Is it daylight? Well, I live on the West Coast, so you know. It's not horrible. I mean, it could be worse. It could also be a lot better. Check. Yeah, I don't know. I'm messing with the sound settings, but if I turn it up at all, it explodes through these headphones. Murdering me doing a stream at 3 a.m. Isn't it like pronounced Greenwich or Greenwich? Because it's not Greenwich. I don't know exactly. Look, man, I mean that's your fault. No, I was gonna do this earlier. I was gonna do this 3 hours ago, but I got a text right at that time. And I'm not gonna tell you exactly what it was, but it was like basically the message was, "Hey, are you coming?" I was like, to this thing that I was told is happening just now that I wasn't told about before. And they were like, "Oh shit, yeah, you're right." So how can I join? There is a pinned comment on the top. That is how you join. Greenwich. Okay, so I was right. Trump, why would he do that? I mean, he would, man, that's so believable, though. He would, accidentally release that if we had classified information. He would accidentally release it. He would accidentally say it, even though it's not true, because he was doing his weave. If he thought it could make him $1, he would say it. There's all that. Your outside? My outside what? All righty. Hello? I can hear something, but Uriah, are you there? I can hear sound, but I can't hear any.
Hello?
Yeah, I can finally hear you. What's up?
Oh, yo, what's up, man?
Just sitting outside.
Hey, yo, this is my first time meeting you. So nice to meet you, right? I came across you for the first time, when you, it's not West, Yeah, Wes, you were made a video on West Huff.
Right.
Yeah. So I had a couple. I'm not sure if you saw me in the comments. I was talking to a couple of the people. I had a couple like reputations. If you don't mind, like I was kind of trying to understand your reasoning with.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it does say no debates. I'm happy to answer a few questions.
Oh.
I don't want to get into like a whole thing, but absolutely, I'll take whatever your comments or criticisms are quick.
Okay, fine. Okay. Cool. All right, that works. Okay, maybe I'll catch you on another one then. But okay, so like, in my opinion, and I am very unbiased, and I'm a little bit newer to like my kind of a Christian apologetics. I'm getting more better at my arguments or whatever as I'm going further into it. So I saw the video. Just for me personally, looking at it, I think a couple of the points weren't really as like they didn't really attack the argument that he was making. I think now you had some good points. Not gonna lie, you had some good points. But for instance, I was talking to some of the guys in the comments. I wish I could have pull it up right now, but my phone isn't acting weird. But like for instance, I think that what the West Help was conveying there with the whole like, oh, the good person might go to heaven, that lives this perfect life, but because they deny Jesus, oh, they don't go to heaven. But then this dude that does all these bad things, and then last moment, oh, he asks for forgiveness and goes to heaven. I think what you kind of miss there is that while yes, Christianity ethics is like faith based, the issue I think that you had when you were trying to kind of explain it was like you were putting it where someone can just do that last hope thing and go to heaven. No, because it's a way of the heart. It speaks in your actions as well. And now I'm not saying it can't happen because it can technically it can happen, but that is like a very rare thing that like I can't even think of an instance in the Bible when it actually occurred. So I think that was kind of like a not fair like characterization of how that act occurs biblically. So, just for me watching it, that's how I viewed it. So
Yeah. So, to be fair to your position and to my position, and it's just a reaction YouTube video. It's not like I'm saying I know the ethics of God, and I know that the person can say it with their fingers crossed behind their back. Oh, I did all those terrible things, but I actually accept Jesus. Now let me in, and they get
Mhm.
away with it or anything like that. Like I I didn't specify that. I was just kind of taking for granted that my hypothetical here is one where your repentance truly is accepted despite all the other things you did. So you kind
Mhm.
of have to grant me my hypothetical for that. But I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't explicitly lay it out, but that's the case I was trying to make. The
Okay.
problem I have with this is let's say that that's true. Um, Nobody has any idea. I had this debate with somebody once, and I can't remember exactly how it led to this, but I just basically said to them, okay, do you know or when do you find out that your repentance will be accepted? Because
Mhm.
let's say you actually do live a good life, and you put like if you just merely say, okay, I put my faith in Christ, uh,
Mhm.
you can nobody can prove that they really mean that. Ostensibly, God would know it, but not even the person saying it would really know it until they find out once and for all if their repentance is accepted.
Right.
So that leads to this that leads to this really ridiculous position where we're kind of like, well, we actually have no idea who's going to heaven or not, even based on the like select criteria of if you say that you take faith in this and believe it, then you do for those reasons. So
Yeah.
again, I don't
Yeah.
want to
Okay.
have like a
Okay.
long debate on it, but that's just sort of my position there.
Yeah. I'll leave it. I'll leave it. You know what I'm saying? I'll leave that alone. I understand your point though. So I can, like I said, we both kind of have good points there, I think. Yeah. So cool. Whatever. Now, are you gonna take like a? I guess because now, like I said, this is my first time like really meeting you, and I've only watched a couple of your videos. So, are you like an Alex O'Connor type person? Are you like how's your like? What's your like? Are you atheist or like what's your?
I'm an agnostic atheist. I consider Alex O'Connor to be a public intellectual. I don't consider myself to be a public intellectual. I consider myself more of an advocate and an entertainer.
Mhm.
Um, I never really wanted to be an entertainer. I always wanted the content I produce about science and defending science to be fun to watch. I never really thought of myself as an entertainer, but most of my content is debates, and a lot of the people I debate are comically uninformed and silly. So I've turned into an entertainment channel that also has a lot of the facts behind it. So I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool, bro. Cool, bro. Cool, bro. All right, cool, cool, cool. Okay. Okay. You mind if I ask you another question, or can I ask you another
Yeah,
question?
go ahead. One more.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um, do you know? I know you know Jim Bob because I'm gonna go watch that video. Yeah. No, wait. I'm gonna watch that video after. I think you guys debated evolution, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go watch that after this, right? So okay, I have it saved, so I'm gonna watch that one. Do you know Wilson, Angel Wilson?
Yeah, I debated him too.
Oh, you did?
I don't think I would ever talk to Andrew Wilson again, though.
Oh, what was the topic? Do you remember?
Should Christianity be in government?
Oh, that was you. You've been around for a while. Oh, you've been around for a minute. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
I've been around
All
for
right.
a few minutes. That debate he and I had is pretty recent, though. It was only a few months ago.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like a brand new channel. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I thought you were a brand new channel.
No, I've got like 1,300 videos on my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna go watch that again. Okay, all right, cool. That's all the questions I had then. I'll join when you do a debate again. I guess we can have a conversation or whatever. Okay, cool, bro.
Sounds good.
All right.
Later. Okay. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. Okay. It was just I accidentally pushed the button on StreamYard. That's what it was. I just had to flip the camera around. Okay. I see those of you in the backstage. I'll get to you after I get through the super chats real quick. No, we already did that one. I'm Prakash Swain. Sorry if I got that wrong. What are your views on determinism and Robert Sapolsky? So I consider myself a determinist. I don't believe in free will. I am not necessarily committed to hard determinism. People that are much smarter than me have said the Bell inequality theorem experiments that won the Nobel Prize in Physics a few years ago absolutely demonstrate that there are certain things that are just absolutely fundamentally unpredictable, or however that works. And then there are certain things like radioactive decay that are just fundamentally random. And that's not for what that means for determinism, or specifically hard determinism, maybe a little bit fatalistic. But yeah, I've read Robert Sapolsky's books Behave and Determined, and those are critical, fundamental books on the way I view quite a lot of things. Lumi finished brief history of time today. I read that during the pandemic. Started Free Will by Sam Harris. Yeah, it is really short. I don't really remember very much of the book. I could probably read it in a day, but yeah. And then the last one, Derek. Could abiogenesis have happened more than once? Yeah. Such that some species have different ancestry. Could a second genesis happen? Science for the win. So that very much, and chat, I need you guys to tell me something. I need you guys to tell me if my audio is clipping really badly, because for me it is, but I think it's just these cheap headphones going into the microphone. But anyways, that absolutely could have happened. Now there's absolutely no evidence. Audio's good. Okay, it sounds absolutely horrible on my end. There's really no evidence that any extant life today has a unique origin. The chemical signature of that would be way too obvious, but it absolutely could have happened early on, but it just would have been outcompeted. Now, could it happen again today? Like, in principle, it could, but I don't think that it actually really could, because anywhere that life could arise again through abiogenesis on Earth, there's almost certainly already some kind of archaea or other prokaryotic form of life there, and it's going to outcompete and consume whatever's there trying to get a hold of life. Extant is the opposite of extinct. It means things that are living. Anyways, Aspen Tree, I think you've been waiting the longest. Welcome to the stream. What's up?
Hey man, I like binge your videos recently for like I found you like a couple weeks ago. Oh, hello.
Well, Ditso, I'm gonna go to Ditso. I think I've talked to you before. What's up?
What's up from Costa Rica? Yeah, we talked before.
Oh, why don't I hear anything?
You not hear me?
Oh shit! I just realized that my audio settings. Oh, why is it doing that? Yeah, give me a second. Okay.
Bienvenidos a la radio latinoamericana.
Oh God.
Can you hear me there?
Up and that hurt really bad. Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
I was expecting that there was an audio problem, so I was going to throw you with the high voice Latin American salute. Look, what motivated me calling you is that you mentioned that you were a agnostic atheist.
Yep.
You know, in my position, I've always found that combination of words to be somewhat oxymoronic in the way that agnostic, my experiences with agnostic is that they tend to, they tend to be wishy-washy in their position, in their philosophical position, mainly parting from the idea of that sense of label of agnostic without knowledge, or the lack of knowledge. I'm 43 years old. I pretty much came out at the age of 8 saying, "Mom, I'm an atheist." At a point of my life where, how the hell did I knew what an atheist was without the academic or the research in that sense? But I just said, I just don't believe in God, in that sense. But I've never been able to even remotely go close to being an agnostic. I'm a what you could define as a true, I'm using that word very loosely, true atheist, in the sense that I am completely and utterly opposed to theism in every sense of the word. I'm extremely anti-deterministic in many ways. I understand certain elements of determinism applied to social sciences in that sense, but just saying that, I know it's not a debate. I just wanted to express that. I've always found that combination of words, especially from Anglo-American, very oxymoronic.
I mean, it works for me because they're different kinds of claims. I feel like one is, to me, atheism is a description of a mental state. I don't have the belief in God that other people have, in any God. I don't claim that God doesn't exist. Some gods are a contradiction and they can't exist, but some God could exist. So I'm an atheist. I'm agnostic because I don't think anybody can have access to a realm that is outside of our, literally outside of our domain of existence and inaccessible to our God-given senses, So I don't think this is exactly the same thing as saying one's a metaphysical claim, one's an epistemic claim. I mean, they kind of are, like, the existence of God is a metaphysical claim. And, regarding what you can or can't know, which is the agnosticism position, is an epistemic claim. So to me, I think you can be both. I guess it depends on what you mean. If you're an atheist in the sense that you claim God doesn't exist, then that kind of atheist, I don't think, can really be an agnostic, but you'd be a Gnostic atheist. You'd be an antitheist, essentially. That's how I view it.
So in my position, let me put it out there. First, I reject religion. I reject theism from its core. To me, as a historical heritage of my people, of where I'm from, Christianity, Islamic, Judaism, Abrahamic religions, and then the religions of even my people, Cebu, etc., Quetzalcoatl, so many others around there. Every single belief is rejectable in the sense that it just doesn't fit in any logical analysis of reality. That being said, me as an atheist, I part from one simple principle. I believe in absolutely nothing. I have no need of belief. I've abandoned belief. And that simple statement makes a lot of people cringe because they don't understand that a person can actually abandon all forms of belief. So when presented with an event, presented with phenomena, I never part from a starting point of conclusion. I start from a point of questioning why, how, when, etc.
Sure.
And I enable then the evidence to guide me into what could reasonably be concluded. Is it causal? Is it causal? Etc. All those elements. So at the end, I spent from the age of 18 up to the age of 30, getting my career, going through the academics, burning the books, burning the candle, as they say. And that enabled me more to be more in tune into saying, I have no need of belief. I abandon all forms of belief because at the end, knowledge is the journey of burning the candle, of doing the work, of getting the shit done. I don't know if I'm making myself clear of how I'm trying to express this.
I mean, a little bit. So, I mean, we all have our own kinds of associations with terms. And I mean, you have yours. When you flesh it out, it's fine. I mean, it's not what, and I mean, because I live in the chronically online debatosphere, we are very nitpicky about terms. So, so the way you're using it is different, but for most people, I mean, it's fine, I would think.
Well, can I say something about that?
I've already given the way I use the terms. So
the debate thing, let me address this real quick. One thing I've noticed of the Anglo-American and Anglo-speaking debate world versus other languages, they have such a hard time with language, especially when they're monolinguistic and they only speak one language, and they face somebody like me who speaks 5 languages and has studies on Latin, and also has studies on one of the Chicha languages, which is one of the family languages of the Costa Rica, South Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela region. So, for example, a word like agnostic. This is in Spanish. This is the one of the dictionaries of Spanish. I don't know if we could bring it up. I just put it on the chat. Versus how it's explained in English. For example, in Spanish, when we're making analysis of etymology, as the word agnostic, as you can see in Spanish, is pretty much the same as in English. Agnostic, agnostico. We then make the analysis of the prefix, of the suffix, and how that word came to be. And we give examples. For example, the prefix of agnostic is the same prefix as aphasia, apathy, and apepsia. It originates in the European. So sorry, linguistics is one of the majors I did, and I love linguistics, and I could go on for hours. But I wanted to give this example that the Anglo-speaking, monolinguistic Anglo-speaking have humongous problem with language, and particularly language that emanates from my area of language, the Romance languages, Latin, etc.
I mean, I'll just take your word for it as a very monolinguistic. Well, I speak 1.5 languages, English and sarcasm, but I'll have to just kind of, take your word
that
for
will
it.
That will put me on 7.
Yeah,
because I speak English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, one of my native languages, as well as somewhat Nahuatl, and I speak sarcasm in all those languages. So I doubled the.
Oh, you can speak. Is it Nahuatl or Nahuatl?
Nahuatl.
Oh, okay. Is Nahuatl because I've heard that term be used for, or do you just use that for the ethnic group?
No, Nahuatl is a group of languages mainly placed on the northern section of Mesoamerican. Nahuatl has a whole series of derivations and what you would say dialects or different forms of languages. So one thing is the Nahuatl that was being spoken by the Mexica people, and another one is the Nahuatl being spoken by the Lempira people.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen my video on the conquest of the Aztec Empire, but I had to learn how to say a bunch of words like Ixcan Tlahtoloyan and what were the names of those cities?
Tenochtitlan.
Yeah, well, that one's easy, but there's
easy.
What is there's one city and the name is so hard to say. It's not Texcoco, that's easy. It's not Tenochtitlan. I'm not going to remember, but there's a lot of CHTL combinations that are so unnatural in English.
Oh, so yeah.
I had to say Ixcan Tlahtoloyan. I had to make myself say that like 50 times in a row. Man, I'm going to look it up right now, and then I got to move on. I got a lot of people that are waiting.
Yeah, and then I'll leave you. Well, cities Teotihuacan, Tenochtitlan.
Tlacopan. That's what it was. That's actually not that hard, but yeah. Those consonant combinations just in English. You don't get a lot of those. There were lots of others, like learning how to say Huitzilopochtli correctly, and all that was a task. All right. Well, thank you for coming up. It was fun.
Pura vida, Beshko Woblaba, which means in the Chibcha language, walk with your eyes open.
Well, I can say see you later in Spanish, hasta luego, and I can say it in Italian, pasta Alfredo.
Let me quickly, before we leave, I want to teach you a new one. When you say goodbye in Spanish, you have different ways of saying it, but you could say it this way. Cuídesela y siempre para la izquierda.
I already forgot all of it.
Cuídesela, take care of it, and always to the left.
I'm going to just assume that means what I think it means.
Yeah, it means what it means.
It means what it means. There we go. Okay. According to Dennis Noble is Dennis Noble. All right. Intro, I don't know what that is. Okay. Jay is up. I didn't see any super chats or anything. So
hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to say, first off, I've been watching your channel for a while now, like a couple months. It's weird that you got 2 binge watchers in a row, but I got a DoorDash to something. Am I right?
Yeah.
So I'm also kind of an agnostic atheist, but I focus less on the like religious and the sacred aspects of that kind of thinking, and focus more so on like the philosophy. I know you've had your opinion on like the philosophy bros. I guess you could count me as one of them, but I wanted to get your thoughts. What school of thought would you say like you prescribe to the most?
With regard to what?
Let's say that's it.
Well, I'll give you the big 3. I'll give you the big 3. I consider myself basically an empiricist. I'll give you the big 4: an empiricist, a novelist, a determinist, and for the most part, I would say probably moral anti-realist.
Okay. Just to rephrase my question then, is there any particular philosopher that you study more than others?
No. I'm not super read on the philosophers. I mean, I look into some of them, and it's really more to the extent philosophers have been referenced in a lot of the science or psychology or history books that I've read. So David Hume is a big one in the skeptical community for people like me, but I've never read any of Hume's work, but I've read into what the implications for what David Hume says, and
Yeah, I think I've only ever heard of Hume.
David Hume.
That's all. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to know. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem. Planet, did your subs jump recently? I swear it was at 30. I did. So I had a really, really good month of May, and it was all in the last like 10 days of May. The Jordan Peterson video really blew up. The Professor Dave video did pretty good. It wasn't like, it's probably one of my 30 most viewed videos, if I had to guess, although I'm not really sure. So that did pretty well. And then there were a couple others too. A couple others that kind of popped off. I'm not really sure why. And I've been noticing, but I've been doing 2 videos a day on my main channel kind of regularly. So yeah, May was a really, really good month for me. And then I'm going to be really disappointed because June, all my metrics for June are going to be down with respect to May. So I'm going to be like, what the hell is going on? Okay, Hexfire. What is up?
Howdy. Not much. I've been watching you for the past couple weeks. Mostly I've watched a lot of Professor Dave Explains, and so I naturally kind of fell into your, I don't know, into the algorithm, debates and that kind of shit.
Yeah, people joke around. They're like, I thought you guys were brothers and stuff like that.
Hey, I mean, yeah, frankly, I just wanted to stop in and say hi and, I don't know, maybe just chat a little bit. I've always been very scientifically minded, and so I always appreciate your content, especially, a lot of pseudoscience you talk about, or especially flat Earth and young Earth creationism. My dad's a young Earth creationist, so
Rip.
I've got to tolerate that kind of shit on the regular, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, what specific questions do you have?
I mostly just kind of wanted to talk about, really, I don't know. I've been kind of having a tumultuous couple weeks, and I figured it'd be nice to just kind of stop by and say hello and tell you I appreciate your content. And, if you had any kind of philosophy or any kind of scientific topic or knowledge to drop on me, I'd be appreciative to hear it.
I don't know. I'm really bad at this kind of, like, I play guitar, for example, and I know tons of songs. And if somebody were to walk up to, and I'm pretty good at guitar, if somebody were to walk up to me, give me a guitar and say, play something, I would somehow be unable to think of what to play. And whatever I came up with, I would almost certainly be like, I know 10 songs that are way more impressive than that I play Why Georgia in that moment. And I always have this same problem with this kind of thing. So I need a lot of structure. So, like, what's your favorite field of science?
It would definitely probably be maybe like biology or maybe even like botany. I very much appreciate.
I got a biological fact for you. There's one organ that only mammals have that no other animal has, and all mammals have it. There's only one. What would you think it is?
Only mammals have it. All mammals have it.
No other animal has it.
I probably couldn't tell you, unfortunately.
It has to do with breathing.
I would say like the lungs, man, or like
nope. Other animals got lungs.
I kind of figured, but genuinely, as far as breathing goes, I know a good bit about cells and like that kind of biology, and I mean, especially
I do a lot of breathing myself. I just don't know a lot about it.
I'm a skilled breather. I mean, I wish I could be a little better.
It's the diaphragm. All mammals have a diaphragm, but no other animal has a diaphragm.
I wouldn't have thought of the diaphragm as an organ just because it's muscular, in nature. So that totally would have slipped my mind.
Weirdly, you can call your teeth an organ. I don't know if hair counts as an organ or not.
Wouldn't organs be specialized? Isn't that just kind of all it pertains to, or?
Not exactly. Teeth are some of the most specialized things we have, though. There are paleontologists can tell what kind of animal they're looking at just based off of the teeth. That's how specialized teeth are. There aren't that many parts of the body that you can do that with, that fossilize at least. But teeth are extremely specialized.
For sure. And if I got any wisdom for anybody watching, take care of your teeth.
Yeah.
You'll regret not taking care of them.
I'll give you one more. This will be a multiple choice question. There is an animal that is called the mountain chicken. I want you to tell me, is this animal a fish, an amphibian, a reptile, or a mammal?
Mountain chicken.
Yep. Is it a fish, a reptile, an amphibian, or a mammal?
I'm kind of stuck between like reptile or mammal.
It's neither of those.
Oh, well, I'm definitely off.
The mountain chicken is the colloquial term for a specific type of frog called the mountain chicken. So Google mountain chicken and look at the picture and just be like, why did they do that? Why is it called that?
I'll have to look that up in a minute. The phone I'm on is terrible, unfortunately. I don't know how they built a phone this bad, unfortunately. So if I open up a new tab,
somebody's got to.
I'll definitely check it out for sure. Hey, I appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate you for being a supporter. Thank you.
No problem. Have a nice day.
You too. Does it taste like chicken? I've never had frog. I would eat frog. I've just never had the opportunity to. I have heard that tastes like chicken it's a cliche, but that's the one meat I've heard really, really actually does taste like chicken. All right, Oreo is
hello.
Cat. I love that. Yeah, what's up?
Sorry. Okay, I think I saw in one of your videos you had a Switch behind you. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what's your thoughts on the Switch 2? Are you excited for it, or are you not going to buy it?
I am not spending $500 on a Switch 2. Sorry, I can't imagine what would get me to buy one, because like you can play games online on a Switch, but I don't know anybody that does that. So the games would have to be incredible replay value, or the stories would just have to be so long and in depth. And a Breath of the Wild, a Tears of the Kingdom has that, but it's going to be available for the regular Switch. And so I can't imagine. I don't have that kind. If I was raking in $200,000 a year, then buying it's really like a $700 commitment if you want to get the console and 2 games. So, for something where the only reason I'm going to get it is to play 2 games, I mean, I'd have to almost be a millionaire to say that's like throwaway money,
Yeah. What's your are you excited for the new Pokemon game, or are you not a Pokemon person?
So I came out with a Pokemon video today. I wouldn't really call myself a Pokemon person. I always liked Digimon way more than Pokemon, because the Pokemon stories are, I mean, I never played any of the video games because my parents never bought me a Game Boy when I was a kid, and I never had a GameCube either. So I never played any of the games, never had Pokemon cards. Nobody I knew ever. I mean, I grew up in a tiny little town in the middle of South Dakota. Well, it's actually the edge of South Dakota, middle of the country. And so that just wasn't really a big thing. I was alive at the perfect time for it. I was born in 91, so, but yeah, I mean, Pokemon was always like this really cool thing that I just didn't get to have much of a part of. I mean, I would play a Pokemon game for the hell of it.
If you do, you should probably play like one of the older like DS ones, not one of the newer ones. The newer ones are really buggy, and
are those the ones where you just like take photographs of them or whatever, like the Pokemon Safari or something?
Like the newer Pokemon games, like they have like the full Pokemon story, but they just don't make them as good.
Oh, okay.
Like they just like, I don't know what the Switch 2. I mean, the Switch 1 isn't that good of a console, so.
What do you mean?
Well, like it only does like 30 FPS, and then it like kind of lags.
So it doesn't have 1080. Yeah, I mean it's old. When did it come out?
That's true. I don't know.
It's like not quite 10 years old, is it?
It came out 2017.
Yeah. 2017. So, I mean, for something that's this big, I mean, it's okay, I guess. They came out with the OLED model just like 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, the OLED model is good. That's what I have.
Yeah, I have almost never played my Switch on the Switch screen. I've basically always played it on my TV.
You should, unless you have the OLED.
I didn't even get a Switch until less than 2 years ago, and I played Breath of the Wild, and I bought the Switch and I bought 3 games. I bought Mario Kart, I bought Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And I played Breath of the Wild, and I just remember playing it the whole time thinking, I am so pissed that I missed out on this for the last 7 years or whatever, 6 years, because this is one of the best games ever. It really is. And then Tears of the Kingdom was awesome, but
since you're like are you good, like, do you like biology stuff like that?
Yeah.
Have you played Pikmin and like read like the Piclopedia and stuff like that?
No, I've never. I think I've played Pikmin. I did play. I have played it a couple times because somebody else had it, but I don't remember what the heck you even do in it.
You just like throw the little guys around and make them do stuff for you.
Yeah.
I'm not good at like describing the games.
Don't worry about it.
But Pikmin.
Right. Yeah, my Switch doesn't get a whole lot of love at the moment because I played through all the games I bought that I wanted. I could probably, I mean, I don't know. On other people's Switches, I've tried like Super Mario Odyssey and Paper Mario, and I've played them for a little bit. It's kind of hard for me to get into them. They're just so like mechanically weird to me, and that's kind of the point of them. But I'm just like the novelty and the charm of that for me just doesn't really do anything. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm old.
Well, it's nice to hear your opinions about that stuff. Hope you have a good day.
Yeah. You too. Who would have thought we'd be talking about that? Oh, I thought that was about me. Did you guys see Kitty Cat Peterson? Oh, she's right there. Kitty Cat Peterson, she's a bad kitty. I don't let her out unless she's being supervised because she jumps over the fence and runs away. She's a bad kitty. Okay. If you guys saw, I can't show you because I'm using the webcam attached to the computer, but if I slightly bump anything, all the audio gets disconnected. So that's awesome. Okay. Hello?
Hello? Is that me?
Yeah, Drifter, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Hey, first of all, love you guys, you and Joel. For good or ill, I was calling you the good cop, bad cop of atheist debates. But I enjoy all your content. But here, I actually have some serious question. I read this book a long time ago in the 70s by Edward O. Wilson. It was called On Human Nature, and basically explores the concept of like genetic determinism. Like we've evolved behaviors, and these behaviors have become institutions, like altruism, the kind of thing, homosexuality, all kinds of these things. And now we've mapped the human genome, etc. And in these conversations I hear about atheist debates, we talk about determinism, like free will. God, I don't know how many times I hear that on Justin's show, but but so what's your thoughts on, I mean, my science is old. I'm last century. Where are we at with how many choices do I have in life?
Okay, that's a fascinating question. So wow, that I'm not 100% sure how to answer that in less than 1,000 words, but I'll try. I'm gonna primarily
simplify.
I'm gonna give you some resources you can look at. So one thing that you alluded to, and this is where I thought you were going with, is the idea of biological determinism. So that is and E.O. Wilson, he's actually a pretty significant figure. He gets a lot of hate, and I can't remember what the hell people misinterpret some stuff that he wrote about being, I can't remember what it is. He gets called a white supremacist for some really stupid thing that he wrote about that is just people are completely misunderstanding what he was trying to say.
I don't.
But
I haven't read too much. I read his book on ants and then on human nature.
Yeah. But anyways, this idea of biological determinism was, I mean, that's kind of an ancient idea. No, not ancient. It's an older idea because then even in the 1800s and the early 20th century with the eugenics movement, people thought that certain like depression and schizophrenia and whatever, they thought that that was heritable. And it turns out it isn't really heritable, not in the way we think, at least. And then when the Human Genome Project came out, scientists were, there were people thinking, man, humans are really complex and we have such complex behavior. There might be like 100,000 genes. And turns out, nope, there's about 20,000. And one of the extremely surprising things we found out was there really isn't any single personality trait that there is a gene for. And so there is no such thing as a gene for schizophrenia or major depression or anorexia or anything like that. In fact,
that's like a chemical imbalance or something, right?
Yeah. Now you can have a genetic proclivity to it or propensity to it. And there's a fantastic book that I recommend and it's a short book too. It's called Blueprint by Robert Plomin. I'm going to write that in the comments.
Okay.
Blueprint by Robert Plomin. And this book will answer the questions that you have. It talks all about what I just said there. And he goes into some fantastically rich detail about these kinds of things too. But and then he gets into biological determinism a little bit because the book is really centered around adoptive twin studies. So they are identical twins separated at birth. So they're 100% genetically identical, but they share 0% of the environment. And it turns out that these identical twins are unthinkably alike, which means that the genetic component or whatever to all this is massively stronger than we thought. It kind of turns out on balance to be about 50 with regard to everything. And this includes personality traits as well. The problem with 50% of it being environmental, though, is we think we can control and construct the environment, but you absolutely can't. And we find out that, adopted twins who are separated at birth are always more like each other than the separated twins are from the families they live with. So they literally live their entire lives with an adopted family, and they end up having very, very little in common with any of them. And they have vastly more in common with their identical twin who they've never met, who lives somewhere else. That's all. It's all really incredibly fascinating.
So not environment. You're saying the environment has less of an effect.
Less of an effect than people would guess. It is still strong.
On personality.
Yeah. And that manifests its way in really crazy ways you wouldn't think would be possible. Like identical twins end up having something like a 30% correlation in divorce. And it's like, how could that possibly correlate? But the tests, the studies for this or whatever are pretty unambiguous. Excuse me. Sorry. So yeah, I would really recommend that book. What was your original question? I'm partially addressing
well, mainly it was, I was calling it genetic determinism and you're calling it biological determinism. And I guess, I
mean that in the same way.
Yeah. And in that concept, like what you said, like in O. Wilson's book from the 70s was that human traits, like behaviors, like, and we were just talking about like divorce. So let's talk about monogamy. So he was talking about how monogamy has become an institution. Certainly our religious institutions have said, oh, well, man, one woman, right? But let's forget polygamy and et cetera and history. But he used a study of bonobo chimps, I think, which was that there's the appearance of monogamy to the alpha, but that the alpha females would sneak off with the betas. And that creates more genetic diversity. And thus, so in his thing, that's a survival trait, something that creates, that's been evolved through evolution. So our sense of monogamy, while we hold that important, we also are very not monogamous in a lot of ways. So that's just what he was saying. So I guess not to go too long on it, but when you guys are saying, when I get it too, was the arguments about free will. When you're talking to these to the theists about free will, and we say, and atheists, and you guys say we don't have free will. What is it? Define. Tell me what we're saying. What am I going to say? How would I? Do you think that? Do we have free will or don't?
I don't think we do. No.
But we have a certain range of choices depending on the environment.
Yeah, that would be true whether or not you had free will. It's just, could I have, the option for me to talk to you was there, but the choice for me to decide to talk to you is an illusion. That's my
right. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. No, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of get to the current situation. So you said Blueprint by who?
Robert Plomin is his name.
Robert Plomin. Plo. All right. I'll check it out. It's on the site. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work, sir. And Reason, God, I know. Thank you. I was hoping Reason would win, but it seems like we're losing.
Yeah, but still gotta keep trying.
Yeah, you're young. You still have hope. I get it.
For now. That guy was cool. Man, what the fuck was that Ryan Lopez's guy's problem? Holy shit. Okay, Keto, what's in the private chat? My phone is about to die. Well, now I'm still going in order. Keto, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm seeing right now, I didn't read the banner. It says no debates. I came here to talk about evolution. So we're not doing debates tonight. Can I call it another time or something?
Well, I don't do YouTube debates. I might start doing them. I do all my debating on TikTok or whatever. So this might be the only chance you have to talk to me about something. Let's do this. I only have one other guest in the backstage. And
yeah, bring him on.
They said their phone is going to die.
Yeah, bring him on.
I'll see what they wanted to say real quick. As of right now,
you should bring us on at the same time.
No, I'm not going to do that. I don't have anybody else waiting. So
okay.
I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about because there are no other guests to talk with. And then we can debate so I'm going to put you in the backstage for now. I'll bring you back up soon.
Okay.
What's up?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so dude, why don't you believe in Islam?
Because I don't believe in magic.
I don't understand. What do you mean by magic?
Well, what you would call miracles, I would call magic. They are qualitatively the same thing.
Could you repeat that? Sorry, my audio cut out.
What you would call miracles, I would call magic. They are qualitatively the same thing.
But miracles happen because it was associated with religion.
that's not a sufficient reason to tell somebody that the laws of nature have been ended.
But it's been proven by the Quran.
No, the Quran says that this happened. I mean, I had a book that said that I shit $100 bills. What does that prove? It proved the book says it. Now how do we figure out whether or not what the book says is true? Or is that not allowed?
Well, the crass aside, I believe that, like, because Muhammad, like, he wrote it down into the Quran, that it's true because it was the word of God.
He was illiterate.
Cap.
Okay.
If he wrote it down in the book, right? The Quran, who wrote the Quran? It was Muhammad.
The word "if" is doing an enormous amount of heavy lifting there.
No, I'm just trying to paint like a picture in your head because you don't believe so. Muhammad, like, he wrote it into the Quran. He went to the moon and back before his doorstopper stopped on his door. There are many things that Muhammad did because Muhammad was like the true word and messenger from Allah. So
these are just claims.
Yeah, but from a trustworthy source, God.
How do you know that God exists?
Because Muhammad wrote about him in a book.
How do you know that what Muhammad writes in a book is true?
Because
and boom goes the dynamite. There we go. Colorado is pretty bright at 9 p.m. Flat Earth confirmed. That wouldn't prove that at all. Dang, that's a cool PFP. Oh shit. I didn't see this. What do you think of Madhyamaka philosophy? I am really sorry. I've never ever heard of that in my life. That was asked a long time ago too, and I totally missed that. Man, I am sorry, the Church of Four. That's the only one I missed. Okay, well, let's see what this is all about.
Hello.
Keto, you're back.
Yeah. I just want to talk about evolution. I just don't see how, because to me it seems like you, atheists and agnostics, what have you, you're trying to replace God in the natural world with like, you have like your theories and your postulates and your axioms and whatnot, and I just don't really think that that's a replacement for the original creation story that's been around for eons upon eons.
The Vatican accepts evolution.
Well, the Vatican's not Christian. That's like Catholic. That's completely different. And
Catholics aren't Christian?
Like, not to my knowledge now. They're Catholic.
Why not?
It's a completely different religion. Well, it's like a different...
What are their beliefs about Jesus?
Well, they believe that he rose from the dead, but they like...
What are the minimum qualifications that make somebody a Christian?
Well, I know that some people think there are some things that make people Christian, but I believe there are other things that make people Christian. You know what I mean?
No, I have no idea what you mean, because I asked you what are the minimum
okay.
qualifications, and you.
So you're asking me, or are you asking what the common consensus is?
No, I'm asking you.
Me personally, I believe to become a Christian, you have to believe, one, you have to believe that Jesus rose from the dead. Two, you have to live a virtuous life, and that does not include whatever the popes get up to. All right, and I don't believe that's virtuous, so that already disqualifies the Catholics. And then, second of all, you have to live by the doctrine.
You cannot do guilt by association.
What do you mean?
Whatever Cesare Borgia was up to does not condemn.
I don't even know who that is, but like you have to understand,
he was a pope.
They're okay.
No, wait, he wasn't. He wasn't a pope. His dad was. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
but no, whatever actions the popes do. There was one of the Leos. He was a pretty nasty dude, as far as from what I can remember. But no, they're whatever actions the Pope undertakes, you can't do guilt by association for other Catholics and say that therefore they're not good people either. Mm-hmm. So Catholics are 2 for 2 on your
No,
definition.
we have to
except for
understand-
a couple of popes that you don't like. What's next?
The popes are the head honchos of the organization. They are in control. They set the doctrine. So whatever like goofy stuff they get up to in their free time reflects on the religion as a whole. However, there are no
Guilt
figures
by
like that in
association
Christianity.
is a logical fallacy, so I'm not dealing with that. What's your next?
So you're going to ignore that entire
qualification?
point. So that's one
Yes,
keto.
I
zero
will.
Planet Peterson.
I will disregard logical fallacies. I will do that every single time.
Well, I mean, ATP, like I don't even know where to go from here. Like those are my main 3 points. You have to follow the doctrine, live a virtuous life, and live by the doctrine. Most importantly, so that's all I'm gonna say on
Who specifically lives a virtuous life?
me.
Anybody else?
My family, people from my church, my friends. Hopefully, my friends. I'm not too into.
Has any single person who's ever been Catholic in history lived a decent life?
I haven't met any of them, so I couldn't tell you honestly. I mean, until I meet one of them,
Okay, so are Christian. You have not been able to disqualify them. And
how so?
And Christian, by virtue of what you just said, you just said you could not exclude them from from your second qualification.
Okay.
So according to your minimum qualifications, Catholics are Christians. Catholics, the Vatican at least, there are individual Catholics who don't believe in evolution, but the Vatican's position on it is no problem with evolution. But anyways,
I don't know. You're asking a lot of
used to
leading
be-
questions.
I used to- yeah.
Are you
so
doing a lot of virtue signaling, or I don't understand?
0 out
What's
of 10
the
rage
point of
bait.
this?
So there's I don't really personally see how evolution being true means that God doesn't exist. I think that's really stupid. There may be specific claims that don't really work anymore. Like if humans evolved, there was no Adam and Eve. But there are people that are able to rescue that idea. I mean, the Old Testament clearly says the earth is flat. Maybe you think the earth is flat, maybe you don't. So you've had to do some renegotiating and some
I
rescuing.
haven't done enough research, so I had to do more research to see if the Earth's flat. So, and also another thing is the Catholics, they go against the doctrine. They already broke the rule because the doctrine doesn't say that humans come from monkeys or whatever, or from bananas like you believe, which is just ridiculous. They don't say that in the doctrine, but yet the Catholics believe that. So.
The doctrine doesn't say whether or not Australia exists either. So you're making an argument from silence, which is another fallacy.
I didn't realize I was talking to the fallacy professor today. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. That's besides the point.
I am the master at fallacies.
I just don't understand. You think you think
suck
you're
up
funny,
fallacies.
bro.
I mean fallacies for a living.
You can't actually think you're funny like this. Like, can we just have a serious
You're
conversation?
literally laughing. So
no, I'm laughing at how stupid you sound. You just sound really dumb right now.
No, what's happening?
You're saying no. Okay, so you have the ideology of a 12-year-old boy. I'm telling you something, you just say no. I don't think so. No, not at all. Really? You got to try harder than that, Peterson. But yeah, otherwise, even more on evolution.
So, if evolution was true, what would the evidence look like?
So that's a great question, actually. For an instance, we've never actually seen anything evolve in a lab. It's all hearsay. We just see fossils and we're like, this fossil looks like this creature. So it could be this ancient ancestor, which is just completely.
So the question was, if evolution was true, what would the evidence look like?
Yeah, I would say the evidence, if evolution was true, the evidence would look like we have these papers and these documents, ascertaining that it, for example, an eyeball, just riffing off of here out of blue, an eyeball evolved in a lab. We've seen an eyeball evolve, maybe it gained 10 billion more photon receptors in the iris or something, right? We've never seen that before. That's not possible, right? And you guys know it's not possible. And here we are. You guys still act like it's true.
That's an oddly specific example that you picked, as if that disproves the theory overall. So if humans evolved, what would the evidence of human evolution look like?
So you're not going to answer my question, is what I'm getting at here.
So if humans evolved, what would the evidence of human evolution look like?
I honestly couldn't tell you, because the idea of humans evolving is so utterly ridiculous that I can't even like fathom what the evidence for that would be. How would you get evidence for that?
Well, humans have uniquely very large brain cases. We have uniquely among the primates
Yeah, you especially. Yeah.
pretty flat faces and small jaws, for
Mhm.
example. And we have this upright posture. So if humans evolved, it means the thing we evolved from, we should see a gradual reduction in our highly derived traits. We should see gradually smaller brain cases, gradually more sloped faces, and the more prognathous jaw structure. And oh no, the evidence that humans evolved does exist, and it's really, really incontrovertible.
Mm-hmm. So we have Homo habilis, Australopithecus africanus, afarensis.
We have
looking
evidence
at
of
here,
human evolution.
these aren't humans. These are just like,
I know they're
other species of
proto-human
monkeys.
well, they are humans because a lot of
These
them
are
are homos,
chimpanzees.
not all of them. No, not a single one of these is a chimpanzee.
How so?
Oh wait, why did they actually did put a chimpanzee in the top left? That's
Exactly,
weird.
because you're comparing apples to oranges here. We're not monkeys. You
No,
have to
these are
realize that, right?
If we evolved, then you would see a gradual transition from a more primitive characteristics to our more modern characteristics, and we have that perfectly.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yep. So
no,
we
not at
do
all.
have the evidence that humans evolved.
So wait, so you expect me to take this Photoshop like picture as evidence? There's no papers. There's no research. There's
thousands
no
of
nothing.
papers that have been done on this.
This is just one page, though. Where's the abstract? Where's like the evidence? This is just a picture off of Imgur. This is nothing. I want to see like the Google Scholar. Name one paper.
That would convince you?
Yeah, I would. If
one paper would convince you,
I would have to see thousands upon like thousands of papers in the field, all cross-referencing each other.
Then why haven't you started reading them?
Well, I was actually in biology class, but because in high school I took an AP biology course, but I actually stopped like midway because of how just utterly ridiculous the dogma they were shoveling out of kids were. It was actually like disgusting to me.
That's fascinating. Can you do me a favor real quick?
Yeah.
Can you shut the fuck up? Oh, look. Thank you. What a good little boy. What a good little boy. All right. Rick is up next. I didn't miss any super chats, did I? Oh, there we go. The Crusades happened, so all religion is bad. I mean, that's not a... I don't know what that's in relation to. Rick, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What's up?
What's up? I'm not really here to debate. Just here kind of to talk, I guess. I don't necessarily believe in like the religious gods, but like what would be your best counter argument for intelligent design?
Oh, jeez. So probably endogenous retroviruses. Now, that's not really an argument against intelligent design exactly. It's kind of more of an overwhelmingly strong example of the counter position, which is just evolution, right? I would say it's more convoluted. It's a little more difficult to do, but you can absolutely prove like intelligent design makes predictable and testable claims, and you can absolutely prove that they're completely false. So it's really hard to pick ones that are unique and don't just instead work to affirm evolution. It's like, for example, we could say that, well, if all life on the planet was uniquely created, there should absolutely be no reason to expect nested genetic hierarchies among organisms based on the taxonomic systems that we came up with. Yet, that's exactly what we found. So I would count that as evidence where creationism does make in this case, kind of a weak prediction and it falls apart. A more nuanced one that I think is better, one that I used on Kent Hovind to hilarious effect, would be Brian, I figured that's what that was in response to. I figured you were doing an attribution fallacy as well. But anyways, so you can, for example, take a shark and a dolphin and a hippopotamus. Now, which ones are more closely designed? It's quite obviously the shark and the dolphin. And if you believe that God designs organisms and that God designs DNA, then we should see a strong correlation between the designed DNA that was intentionally, teleologically constructed by God for sharks and dolphins, along with the designed, phenotypes, the traits that they have. Should see a strong correlation between those two things, and extremely weak correlation with both of them to hippos, because hippos and dolphins share 0% of their environment, and they share they'll share some traits, like they have lungs, they have skin because they're mammals, right? But overall, the design is completely unlike a hippopotamus in every single way. And we know for a fact that that is utterly false. The shark and the dolphin are extremely different in their genetic design, whereas they are very, very similar in the DNA design realm or whatever. So that's the kind of thing I would have used in the past.
Okay, so like I know that I really wasn't alluding to the biological aspect of like a god or um, really creationism in general. I was more attributing life to kind of like Carl Sagan's point, where maybe human beings or consciousness could be attributed to, you know, life, I guess, kind of like a cosmic feedback loop where we are just points of the universe experiencing itself.
I don't know what that has to do with intelligent design.
Well, basically, I'm saying like maybe you could say consciousness is kind of like God, where maybe I don't know, in a way, kind of like consciousness is evolving. Maybe you could say like through this, time is kind of abstract, right? We can say that over a period of time, maybe as conscious observers, we evolve to a point where we find the need to create a universe, so to speak.
I
know it's
mean, that just
very
sounds like an
abstract.
argument for like simulation theory or something like that.
Okay,
Um,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah. I used to argue that all the art for like fine tuning and all that work better for simulation theory than they do for theism, because we know simulations are a thing. We don't know that a magical realm is a thing.
Yeah, I'm not so, like I said, I'm not, that's why I kind of like differ from a theist point of view, but I kind of, like I said, from a scientific point of view, it seems kind of reasonable to say, yeah, the simulation theory kind of works where, like I said, um, maybe we are the universe, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thought, but
Just throwing it out there. But yeah,
that's one of those late night thoughts for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shit, Rick, I got 4 other guests that are waiting, so I'll have to drop you in and check out what they wanted to talk about. But thank
I'll
you.
just be watching. Thanks for your time, Peter.
You're welcome. I will get Josh up here in a second, but I'm gonna turn on. It got dark out, so I'm gonna turn on some lights. I'll be right back. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Oh, those lights aren't really doing anything, but I did light some tiki torches. So that'll be the artificial light for now. Okay. There were some super chats that I got to get to before. Google Scholar 7.4 million results on UN evolution. Yeah, Keto's got to get to reading here. Yeah, he really, yeah, that last caller really did. He absolutely got his back blown out. And then Brian, yeah, we already read that. So, Josh.
Oh, did it work?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm kind of new to the channel, still learning what it's all about. But I was curious to know if you've talked about Eastern religions before. That would be like Buddhism, Shintoism, or Confucianism, or Taoism, and if you had any thoughts about the pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, what have you.
I don't. The only one I know a little bit about is Buddhism. I have a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, Heart of the Buddha, or The Heart of Buddha's Teaching, and I haven't read it. I need to read that book. I keep forgetting that I have it. But I mean, I'm a little bit aware of the Buddha doctrine of something like, you know, the root cause of suffering is desire.
Yeah.
And if you can separate yourself from that, that is how you achieve nirvana or whatever. And that kind of austerity preaching or whatever is the same kind of thing Jesus talked about, but Buddha was 600 years before, you know?
Yeah.
And I honestly think we need more of that kind of philosophy. Like I wish Marcus Aurelius wrote more about that kind of thing in meditations, because then all the bros would be all into that instead of the rather unfortunate sort of runaway, what do you want to call it? The sort of runaway keeping up with the Joneses. I'm not happy because I don't have shiny things kind of lifestyle that we absolutely are all consumed with. I want to see more of that. And I hope that if we have to live with things like Christianity or whatever, I hope that some Christians come out and start to popularize the ideas like that kind of thing that Jesus talked about. And, you know, it overlaps with Buddhism to that extent. So, yeah, I don't know much about, in regard to any of the others. I have no opinion. If I try to say anything, I'll just make myself look stupid because
Oh, that's fair.
I'll have to do a Planet Peterson debunking video again if I say anything about it.
Yeah, I don't really know if suffering comes from desire per se, because I don't know. I feel like if you get stabbed, that's just a fizzle. That's just pain. You're not.
Well, you
don't
desire to not be stabbed, so that's...
yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment. Can suffering exist without desire? I mean, plants. I guess plants can suffer if they don't have water, and they don't necessarily want it the same way we do. So I guess it's a bit of a semantics game about what suffering really is.
Yeah, kind of. But like I said, I don't know hardly anything about it. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah. I see people talking a bit about AI in the chat and comments, and I was actually, this is a question I've been struggling with lately. Could AI truly become conscious or sentient? And if so, what rights should they have?
Oh, geez. In terms of rights, yeah, that is a creepy thing. If we somehow start creating AIs, just like technologically or whatever, and they can suffer, and just all that happens is we don't even know what the hell their needs are, and they get deleted or erased or abused, like somehow they get abused or whatever, then we would just be wantingly creating all this destruction. And it seems like, yeah, a terrible thing or whatever. But I think it could. I have no idea how that would happen, because I am when I try to think about, I don't know what consciousness is, but I'm pretty sure I have it. And I'm certain as I can be that the reason I have it is because I have a sufficiently complex computing system, my brain, right? So I think that a sufficiently complex computing system can be conscious. I don't know what it would be that a living, that's like, I don't know what characteristic, trait, or property of living organisms could grant them consciousness that something expressed as ones and zeros cannot do. So I wouldn't know how it would ever happen or whatever, but I'm open to it, I guess.
I tend to, when people ask me what consciousness is, I usually describe it as a sense of self and surroundings.
It's a subjective experience. That's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah. And so I'm assuming that's possible in machines, especially when people talk about AI being smarter than humans. I can't imagine something being smarter than us, but not conscious and not sentient.
I don't know. There's also this fundamental problem. It may actually not be knowable if an AI is ever conscious, because of the problem of the P zombie, the philosophical zombie.
Yeah.
So it may be fundamentally unknowable ever if they are indistinguishable from humans. And then it's like, well, then what do we do? Like, if they pass the Turing test, do we just, out of abundance of caution, pretend that they do have a subjective experience and all that? And then it's like, well, I don't know. We could do that, but then what could better emotionally manipulate us than something that has convinced us that it has a subjective experience and can calculate trillions of calculations per second?
It's scary stuff, and
yeah.
But I think it's important that we find an answer before it all happens. But right now we're stuck on this. Is AI art real art, and should ChatGPT be incorporated into schools, and all these smaller things that we got to work out first before we get to the to the big stuff.
Yeah. I think the rate of technological progress is happening such that I think the simpler way to put it is, I think we can make progress at a faster rate than we can become aware of problems, essentially. So yeah, it's gonna be I don't see how it can be anything other than a bumpy ride.
Yeah, I don't believe a second that people are getting dumber. I think the problems are getting more complicated than we could possibly have imagined. It's throwing us off. Someone in the chat says, we can't even prove that another person is conscious. I guess that's true.
That's the P zombie problem. Other people pass the Turing test. I had this really hilarious debate with a presuppositionalist. It was on the channel not that long ago, but the guy said, "Oh, you atheists, you can't even prove that you're conscious or whatever." And I was like, I couldn't prove it to you, no, but I could give you a sufficient confidence interval to demonstrate that I am. And all I did was, and this is how you would do it, you just say to them, tell me something that, so like, you're convinced that you have a subjective experience and you don't know if I am, but here's the best I could do. Tell me something that only something that is conscious could do.
That's a tricky one. What is something that?
Yeah, I put you on the spot, and maybe you can't think of an answer for that. Right?
It's a tricky. I mean,
and it's like, write a fictional story about somebody who never existed or whatever. It ultimately you're gonna try to pick something that you can do that seems in line with your subjective experience or whatever. And so if I could do that, then I'm passing the Turing test as best as I can. So I'm giving you sufficient reason. But anyways.
So just to clarify, do you think the Turing test is adequate in determining consciousness?
Well, I don't think that's what it's for. I just don't know what else you would practically use. I mean, that's kind of what it's for, because you can't tell the difference between if it's a computer or a human. And every human thinks that they're conscious. So like everybody can privately believe, well, I'm the only conscious one. Nobody else can prove it. And it's like, well, that's the same. That's basically indistinguishable from we are all conscious,
Yeah,
if everybody thinks it. So yeah, I don't know. Oh man, I got 4 other people waiting.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'll
fair.
have to get to them, but thanks for coming up.
All right, take care.
I had no idea that I would be this popular. Kitty spotted? Is Robbie out? Oh yeah, Robbie's right there. That is our outdoor indoor cat. Shiva. I don't know if this thing is keeping track of who requested first. I think it is, but for those of you backstage. Anyways, what's up?
Am I edible to you? Up as a relative concept. It has no intrinsic value. You should know that. Sorry, bad joke. Favorite line from the Watchmen comic. Anyway, it's funny. The last guy was up talking about Buddhism. I'm a Buddhist, and I asked a question in your chat. Have you heard of Madhyamaka philosophy? And so I thought I'd come up and say hello and give you a kind of brief synopsis of what it is and see what you thought of it as a kind of field of thought.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's from a school, a kind of a branch of schools of Buddhism called Mahayana, which generally tend to stress compassionate action. But Nagarjuna was, I suppose you could call him an analytical philosopher. He's well known for a text called I'm probably going to mangle this, the Mula Madhyamaka Karaka, which translates as the fundamental verses on the middle way. And his primary assertion was that all things, all phenomena, are empty of intrinsic existence. So he wasn't saying that things don't exist. Like he wasn't a nihilist. What he was saying was that they don't have an inherent independent existence. So everything arises in dependence upon causes and conditions. And what we all phenomena, everything that we perceive, experience, and think, they only arise and exist in relation to other things. So for example, we could take like a rainbow, and it seems like it's a thing in the world, but what it really is a combination of light, water, and our own point of view, all coming together to kind of give rise to this phenomenon. And he kind of breaks different aspects of existence down in a fairly rigorous analytical fashion, showing that if you try to reify phenomena, or you lapse into nihilism, that you kind of end up with absurd contradictions. And so his position was that really, like, things are only conventionally real. like things exist as a matter of convention, as a type of conceptual imputation.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. Some of that kind of sounds like nominalism to me. But other parts of that are kind of it almost sounds like I don't know what the hell you call the opposite of Platonism. I'm sure there is a term for it, but I don't know what it is, or like a proposed antithesis, whatever, to Platonism, because I don't believe in an abstract realm of where, like, so like,
Yeah.
because Plato would say, like, oh, a human, there is a human archetype or a perfect human essence or form that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what things are grounded in. And other people, like Aristotle's like, no, you dumbass, it doesn't work like that. So things are conglomerations of other things that they are made of. And so to what extent do you reduce that down to? There were ancient, in Roman times, there were many philosophers and scientists who thought that were atomists. They thought, well, the only things that really exist are atoms. Everything else is just a conglomeration or whatever. So, like, I've never heard this specific thing you're talking about. It just kind of reminds me of,
I mean, I suppose it's quite a fairly obscure school of philosophy. Like, the kind of concept of emptiness kind of can be quite alien and off-putting because it sounds nihilistic. And so I think not very many Buddhists tend to actually delve into what Nagarjuna was trying to say.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's cool to think about.
That was it, really. I just wanted to come up and say hello because you were live and I was awake at 4 o'clock in the morning. So,
All right. Well, I mean, it's only 8:30 here, but.
Right. Well, I'm going to get off so you can have your other guests up. And
sounds
thanks
good.
for the chat. See you later.
Alrighty. Vulcan. What's going on in the private chat? Well, I don't know. All right. Vulcan's up. Hello? Yeah, what's up?
Hey, so I'd like to ask you a question in regards to mental health. Is that, like, okay to ask about, or is that too personal?
I don't care.
Okay. To give, like, an example, in the recent administration, bad stuff is happening. Have you ever felt any, like, nihilistic feelings about it? Like, any, like, loss of hope? And if you have, how have you navigated that?
Me personally, not so much. I was actually talking about this on Livestream the other day. I'm actually not a super pessimistic person. I kind of used to be, and then I grew out of that. After what the hell was the book? The book Enlightenment Now by Steven Pinker is kind of a book, or no, wait, that's not the. No, yeah, that is the book. It's kind of a book that makes this, like, broad sweeping case that things are better than they ever have been, and it's not really even all that close. I would say things today aren't quite as good as they were before the pandemic.
Yeah.
But history, the arc of progress is not smooth. It can be like a sawtooth. So things can be trending down on their way to an oscillating pattern of upward progress. So that's always the case. But yeah, with him, without getting too deep into this, because I've been streaming for almost 2 hours and I got to try to get to a lot of other people here tonight. But a lot of things he tried to do in the first go around were struck down. Lots and lots and lots of them. And he did accomplish several things that I think were not good at all, but elections have consequences. This is just a reality of what we live in. The opposite of that, or the only way to avoid that is to is basically with tyranny and authoritarian rule. And then once the other side gets control, then then they can destroy everything that you thought you were preserving by trying to harness all the power from within you, right? So I think our system is doing the best that it can. This time around, like I said, I am more pessimistic because they are just doing things in a way that is extremely disruptive and tactical. You know, they're just ignoring the law and blowing everything up, hopes that, yeah, so this will get it in front of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is overwhelmingly conservative now, thanks to the unrelenting efforts of the last several decades we've had. And they're going to rule in our favor. And so it's kind of like they're forcing their ideology to the top with the hopes that it'll go their way. And that is very that's scary, you know. But I don't know. This stuff is still getting struck down, so I wouldn't say that I've swung over to pessimism full blown. And I don't know. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. I should just be absolutely morally exhausted and destroyed by the fact that, you know, my country is aiding and abetting in a modern Holocaust in Gaza.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of hard for me as a person sitting all the way over here to get involved enough in it for it to have the impact that it probably should have proportionally. But that's a natural thing about being a human anyways. That is the one thing that I should absolutely lose my hope over. But I don't know. This country used to practice slavery, and that a country that practices slavery is a country that doesn't deserve to exist. Well, we had a civil war, but we didn't rip up the Constitution and start over and say, well, the ideals behind which we founded this country were obviously flawed, so let's start again. And despite everything that's happening now, I still feel the same way. So there's where my optimism lies, I suppose.
Yeah, I understand you. Before I leave, how tall are those screen doors?
They're pretty tall. I'm 5 foot. Without my shoes on, I'm like 5'9". So there's a private chat for people that are backstage, and I was getting roasted in the private chat because when I went and opened the door, yet they are abnormally tall. That is the case, and people are like standing next to them. I look.
You're about like 3/4 of the height. So I took like 75 for my average. So I did 75 of 3/4 to 75 inches. That's about 4 foot 8 inches. So
yeah, no,
it seemed like that, and proportionally, it kind of looked like that. So
yeah, I think I'm 5'9" with my shoes off. I'm 176 centimeters tall with my shoes off. I don't know what that is in feet and inches, and I live in America, right? But no, yeah, those doors are really big. The doors are 12 feet wide. I don't know how tall they are, but they're probably
69 inches. Wow.
Really? Nice.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, I gotta get to Keon here in the guest box, but thanks for coming up.
Have a good night.
There was a super chat. How does altruism evolve direct benefit? So there is benefit. There is such a thing as selfish altruism. I'll give you a couple of really simple examples. So a person that would sacrifice themselves to save their child, how can that possibly be evolutionarily beneficial? Well, the whole point of the whole point of life and evolution is reproduction. So if you sacrifice your body to save your child, what you've done is you've thrown away all of your DNA to preserve at least half of your DNA in your child. And that can work out from a selfish gene or whatever perspective. Another really fascinating one behind this, you'll have to do some reading on because it's very hard to explain, but bees, right? Why the hell would a bee because they can die. It's only honeybees and a few others that die when they sting you. But how does it make any sense that the workers would be willing to die for the protection when the queen is the only one that's doing any of the reproducing, right? That actually doesn't make any sense until you look at the genetics. Bee sisters share 75% of their DNA through this weird quirk, because male bees only have half the chromosomes the females do. So a male bee always passes on all of his DNA to his offspring every time. So that means that instead of then being 50-50, female bees, calling them girls is weird. Female bees are 75, female bee siblings, 5% similar, but they would only be 50% similar to their offspring. So protecting the hive, the perspective of the genes, for the beehive, you're actually preserving your genes better, protecting your kin versus your offspring. Kin, I guess, is maybe the wrong word to use there. So that's another example. Again, you'd have to get way more into the specifics of it. Planet Peterson explains bees, but Ertane says be the POV place. So anyways, those are a couple of examples. Keon, what's up?
Huh? Hello? Oh, hi. Hello. I had not really a question, but like a thought in my head. Like, what makes it not okay to basically take the life of a human person or a human being? What makes it not okay? And like, it's genuinely a truly question that's just been daunting over my head. It's like there's so many like just filth in the world that it pisses me off. And I just hear this homeless dude since the age like 5. I've seen him when I was 5 years old. He's still homeless. I'm 21 right now, and I just makes me mad that he's still alive.
Well, I mean, I was going to give a genuine answer, but that was some psychotic shit. Axel, what's up?
Oh, wait, we switched to me now. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen that quickly, but the guy was like, I just want this homeless guy to die because he won't stop being homeless. So I was like, okay, well, goodbye.
Yeah, that was a little weird, wasn't it? Yeah. I appreciate you switching over to me. I was mostly just taking notes, and this StreamYard I'm not a believer or anything. I've been watching you for a bit. I was mostly taking notes, and the StreamYard is more live than YouTube is. But I did have one question though too, because I wrote down, we were just talking about the guy before that guy came on about altruism.
Yep.
Right. And so what I wrote down, I was when you're mentioning altruism, it's like, well, I think it's more about that, like, we can be selfish for our own needs, right? Like being a social species, right? We're a social species. We're evolved from apes. Is it mostly for our own selfish benefits to sit there and do things for other people for ourselves? Like, is that like a true altruism? You know?
Well, okay, let me Google the definition for altruism, because I mean, I have my own conception of what it means. Like, it's a type of selflessness, right? The belief in or practice of disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others. Okay, so the part about being disinterested maybe doesn't really rest on this, no matter what we take a look at it, because from all the examples I gave, well, there is a personal interest in that. But at the same time, it's not like the organism is like meta aware of it. And it's more of a gene-centric perspective. So there's sort of this funny, I don't know who came up with this, but there's this funny saying in evolution that a chicken is just an egg's way of making another egg, right? Which it actually makes a lot of sense in certain ways. But we can also extract that down a level lower. An egg is just DNA's way of making more DNA, right? And because DNA is the blueprints for the organism, including to an enormous extent behaviors and things like that, I think it does work that we can take a selfish gene perspective on traits, characteristics, and even behaviors in life, and say that there is a kind of altruism that ends up being beneficial for the organism. Because there's this law in evolutionary biology that says an organism can never do anything that doesn't increase its own fitness. And so that would also include an organism can't increase the fitness of another species without also increasing its own fitness, you know? So because I would just would kill the organism.
I just ask one question, because you do have mutations that are bad, even though mutations are always they're always going to happen whether they're bad or not. Does that
Yeah, well, the mutations are something that happens to organisms, not something organisms do.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good differentiator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think I'm kind of nihilistic as well. I think in my thought processes that I've gone through, like I don't think there's really any meaning for us. So like for me, I'm like, I don't think I ever really want kids or anything like that. So it is like, and I tend to try to do things for people. I like helping people out. But then in the long run, it's because it's giving me some hits of, serotonin or, whatever's going on in my brain. Is that just like selfishness? Is that like, kind of what I'm getting at there?
Yeah, this is kind of weird. Like, is it possible to, I remember reading or learning about some weird like theological implications for this. It's like, should you ever, like, if pride is such a bad sin, should you ever do any charity? Because if you're doing it to help other people and it makes you feel good, then you're just being prideful. And so it's like, okay, well, then anonymous donations are the only acceptable good form of charity. It's like, but wait, what if it still makes you feel good? Then it's still, and it's like, well, now it's like, I don't know how to do good in this world, apparently. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are certain things where there are certain ideas or concepts. I wouldn't necessarily say this is something you should live by, but I don't think it's a bad ethic to parrot the phrase, for example, a man provides for his family, right? And that means making sacrifices oftentimes. I mean, you can legitimately, you can genuinely be like, I do this job that I hate, like Homer Simpson, but I have a family and I provide for my family, and I love my family, but I literally have to do something I hate for somebody else's. And like the idea of, I should subject myself to preventable misery for your own good.
Yeah.
There's no argument you can make for that, but that is something that people willingly engage in all the time. Now, some of us are really lucky. I do whatever I want to do. There are all kinds of things I would like to do, like I don't know, own a Lamborghini that I can't do. I don't have the means for that. But yeah, I am a very lucky person. I wear sweatpants every single day because I'm self-employed.
Mate, look, I work in a restaurant. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I work in a restaurant. I go in sweatpants every freaking day. I don't give a shark.
Awesome.
I do what I do. I still live with some of my family and stuff. And yeah, but I love the Simpsons reference to. But yeah, I don't mean to take up too much of your time, man. I was literally just in the thing. You didn't even have to take me off, but I really do appreciate it. Yeah,
Well, we're trying to get to everybody, so yeah,
it's cool.
It was nice talking to you too.
Yeah, yeah. Don't let me take too much of your time, man. I love watching your stuff. Appreciate it, man. I was taking notes,
Sure thing.
trying to figure my own things out. Thank you, man. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. Hey, take it easy, buddy.
All right. Man, guests just keep coming. Oreo, I have already talked to you. I'm going to leapfrog you and talk to Bird. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Hi, what's up?
Okay, hi. Let me just say my connection might get bad. I might randomly disconnect. Just warning you. I've been like watching, like waiting for my turn, and I kind of like heard that one guy talk about what like is wrong with like killing another person. And that got me curious, like honestly, what were you about to say for that?
So I thought they were like, that can be a genuine, like, what is
Yeah.
the actual answer? So there are, like, for me, I don't think moral facts actually exist. I think they are completely, the value dependency of any moral claim is due to the participating parties, which is going to be due to their like own personal preferences or whatever. Now, with something like that, though, well, humans just universally regard pain and suffering and completely pointless death, and murder would be an example of something like that, a completely pointless death. We all universally regard those as being intolerable. So it is like, it's sort of like you can call this an analytical truth. This is how humans feel. And by definition, murder is literally wrong. Now that's a social definition we invented, but any kind of definition is. So if murder is just analytically defined as being wrong, then it's wrong by definition. It's and if you're like, how does that make any sense, or how does that work? You can just ask the question, okay, why is a bachelor not married? Because they're a bachelor. That's just what a bachelor is by definition, you know? So there's that. Or sometimes what I do with people when they're being difficult on this kind of thing is I ask them, can you give me any logical argument that says it's okay for you to harm me, but it's not okay for me to harm you? Nobody can do that. You simply can't. So this claim that there's nothing wrong with murder or whatever is basically just something that nobody actually believes for the most part.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. I was just really curious after that. I was like, I really wanted to know what it was. I did actually have a main question though, because again, I was just watching, and then after I was like, oh wait, this would be a really good question. Earlier on, you were showing something about, you were talking about how a certain, like the book, how something written in a book doesn't really like define proof.
Oh yeah, the Muslim guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that. I was wondering what proof we have for evolution.
Oh, I mean, we have just an enormous amount of it. The entire field of paleontology is remarkably consistent with the theory of evolution. Now, fossils were used to try to bolster support for evolution in the first place. What people do is they fallaciously say that then the fossil record is just circular reasoning. Oh, you used the fossils to create the theory, so the fossils prove the theory. That's circular reasoning. That would be, except when the theory of evolution by natural selection was proposed over 150 years ago, the fossil record we had at that time was extremely scant. We have just orders of magnitude more fossils today, and every single one of them confirms what we thought. Well, I mean, there are surprises in the fossil record, but there are zero contradictions in the fossil record. We'll put it that way. The fossil record looks exactly like the evidence for evolution. Almost every single fossil we find of extinct organisms are organisms that don't exist today. Well, evolution tells us that today's organisms are the descendants of different organisms from the past. And that is just completely what the fossil record is, apart from an extremely microscopic minority of living fossils, which are not really living fossils for tons of reasons. So there's that. The entire field of genetics is the same way. Before we even knew before we knew anything about genetics, it was proposed that the characteristics organisms have do get inherited. Darwin originally said that would be the case, and there's variation in all of that. Now, they didn't know how it worked. He had his own weird theory about these things called gemmacules, which flow in the blood. Turned out to be completely false. But then we learned about genetics, and then it was time to do the test. Oh, okay. Well, is there really such thing as the clade of mammals? Well, if there is, they should all be closely related to each other and not closely related to anything else. And there should be predictable pockets within the mammal group. Like, for example, the primates, they should all be even closer to each other genetically than anything else.
Sorry, can I just cut you off real quick? Sorry.
Yeah.
So for the fossils, couldn't you argue that a fossil record is a book, and that whatever way that they were placed or the way that they got there were the writings that people wrote in, and thus making it an equivalent argument as to kind of, writing out? Because what if they were placed there? There's no way of proving how they got there.
Yeah, but is that is that reasonable at all to assume that because you're just invoking conspiracy. So is it even remotely logical to assume that the fossil record is a conspiracy? Like, there are fossils that get dug up all the time when we're doing construction projects. So like from literally hundreds of feet inside the earth, a fossil gets emerged. And it's like, wait, somebody intentionally put a fossil hundreds of feet into solid rock? How the hell did they do that?
It's not really like, it's like thinking about it as if like when the earth was like, formed, the fossils were like, what if they were like there or already there, or they were put at some point so that when construction was built on top, eventually, that like was built. There's no way of proving, oh, they came from this because we weren't alive. We didn't have the technology at that time. There's no way of like knowing for sure. There's no like 100%. It could be like a 99.9, and it's like, then you can deduct, oh yes, this is true, but it's never going to be 100 as far as what we have.
Well, there's no alternative epistemology that has 100% certainty. So
I'm just really thinking in the perspective of like the ancient societies, and like how everything there worked. Also, for the Darwinism thing, who, like, this is more like out of curiosity, but who exactly, like, because like Darwin said something and at that time everyone went with it. So who exactly questioned him for being wrong?
No, that's really not very true.
No. Like, I'm not like for what like Darwin said. He had a theory. People went with it for some time, did they not?
It had some pretty vigorous debates, but it was we don't have polling data from the time, but it was vehemently attacked by huge numbers of people. I actually this is actually kind of fascinating. I got a subscription to Scientific American, and that magazine has been in circulation since 1849. So I've been going back and looking at old issues. I was like, oh, when the theory of evolution got published, what was the reaction in the most popular scientific publication in the United States? Nothing. They didn't say anything at all about evolution until the 1900s.
Damn.
I mean, that's like National Geographic saying nothing about the fact that we landed on the moon until last year. And it's like, what's going on? So, yeah, I mean, it had, like Thomas Henley Huxley, it had vigorous defenders, but it was not this thing that people were just like, oh, that's true. Oh, okay. Well, anyways,
Well, yeah, I was just like, because like if he was mentioned like in like, you know, like bio studies and stuff, then that means that at some point people did believe like he had like made something that had reason to be believed in, right? So I was wondering, okay, who proved him wrong? Like who went, wait, this might not be right, and then went around. That was what I was wondering.
I mean, people have tried to disprove it. Like I said, genetics, I didn't really get to the very end of it, but it'll only take me a few seconds here. Genetics could have absolutely disproven evolution because we already had all the classifications for all the organisms. We already knew ahead of time, if evolution is true, these are the organisms that are most closely related. These organisms are in their own pocket over here, and then these are completely different. If it turned out that humans are more closely related to polar bears than they are to chimpanzees, and grass is more closely related to giraffes than it is to bamboo, then the entire theory of evolution would have been complete. It would have just been falsified right then and there. But that's not what happened.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Well, I think you've enlightened me on this matter, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It appears it's my bedtime, so I will head out now. Thank you.
Good night. Man, that was fun. All right, Farscape.
Hey, brother, can you hear me?
Yes.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man. Real quick, I just want to say I got a 50% on your quiz at the beginning, so I got diaphragm correct.
Oh, nice.
But I guessed alien for the mountain chicken, and it's never aliens, but I couldn't help myself. Anyway, reason I'm calling in, I appreciate you having me on. I just it's more of like an opportunity to heap some praise on you. I just got out of the Navy a couple months ago. While I was in the Navy, actually going through boot camp almost 10 years ago, I started a humanist chapter because there wasn't one available for recruits at the time. And throughout my career, wasn't really able to be involved, like kind of how I'm looking forward to getting involved now, just because super busy with work and stuff. But now that I'm out, plan on getting a lot more involved in kind of the work you're doing. I know I got a long way to go, but essentially just want to say, keep up what you're doing. It's super inspiring, and I can't thank you enough. This is great.
Would you be able to, thank you. Would you be able to draw on your experience in the Navy to, like, for example, debunk like flat earth talking points? Like, no, in the Navy, we literally get trained, for example, like, I don't know, maybe how to navigate, and like ordinances do account for the curvature of the earth or something like that.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I will preface ahead of time. My mom's name is Kathy, so I think that's where I get my chatty Cathy tendencies from. So if you catch me rambling, cut me off. But happily talk about it. And I actually was, so I ended up getting, I went through a selection course. I was a Navy Special Warfare Operator. And then I went on to graduate from the Special Operations Tactical Medic course, deployed all over the world, met so many different people, different cultures. It was an incredible experience, and it's so funny because there was the job that we do and the people we do it with are so incredible. They're so well trained. They're so committed. But you still have these little pockets of people that believe things that are just, they're antithetical to the actual job that they're doing. And so it's been a weird transition process, kind of getting back into civilian life and having the confidence to go up and start these conversations and talk to people about things that just blatantly aren't true and that are against their best interests. But the work I was doing and the people I was doing it with, it was kind of more of like smaller knit communities, and it was really, it's something I'm going to lean on heavily while I kind of take this next chapter in my life about being as empathetic, sympathetic, and patient with people as possible, even when they don't deserve it. Because I experienced a community where, I mean, we could disagree. I mean, I've met people who believe some of these things that you feel for them, but at the end of the day, you rely on that person when push comes to shove, depending on what you're doing downrange, so to speak. And so it was a really positive learning experience for me to be able to like work with people and say, hey man, like just slowly guide them. And a lot of it would like I'm kind of new to your channel and stuff, but the things I see you do, like where some people you can tell it's like, I need to be a little more patient with this person. And obviously then there's the trolls where you kind of give them what they deserve.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's tough to, get into specifics and stuff, but there are plenty out there. But it was.
I'm going to cut you off, Nate, because I do have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
I got to try to get to two other guests.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's not the answer I was expecting, but that is a really cool answer. That's not what I meant. I was thinking more along the lines of, so like this one time I talked to a flat earther, and he said, I was in the military and we shot 120 millimeter mortars and we never accounted for the curvature of the earth. And what was really funny was a guy I was co-hosting with was literally like, yeah, I've heard this before. And he pulled up the field manual. He's like, yeah, like literally right here, it does say that. I can't remember it. The book either explicitly said that you don't need to account for it, but it wasn't rejecting that there is curvature, or that they do account for it. I can't remember which one it was. So I was just wondering if any like, did I just get soot on my forehead? I did. I was just wondering if there was any quick examples like what you did in the military for like maybe flat earth or something, where you'd be like, oh yeah, like in the Navy, we did things that demonstrably show that the earth can't be flat or something.
Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I was coastal navigation, that kind of stuff. Tough to like get into too many specifics because I'm not sure what my MDA still is like. I'm allowed to talk about.
It's classified.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed the prop on that one. But again, I appreciate everything you're doing, especially now. Like it's super vital. So like, keep supporting all the other people you recommend. And I can't thank you enough for like the patience and the work you're doing. And I really appreciate it. It's super motivating. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, boss. All right, take care. Till next time.
See ya. All right, Sophia, and then Mike, and then I'm gonna get out of here because it's 9:15. What's up?
Okay, so just related to the thing that just happened. Sorry, one second.
Maverick, fitting name since you're a commercial pilot. Nothing is more mind-numbing than a flat earther. I genuinely would rather have a conversation with a young earth creationist. Shockingly stupid. Holy effing F. Yeah, Maverick, except your guys' altimeters prove that it's flat because the altimeter always says 0 or whatever argument they use for the altimeter. I don't remember. Sophia, I'll bring Sophia back up if they're still there later, but I don't know what happened there. Mike, what's up?
Hey, Eric. big fan. I have like two questions. One silly and one serious. Which one do you want first?
Silly.
Silly. Back to front or front to back?
What?
Wiping. Do you wipe back to front or front to back?
Oh. Back to front.
Back to front?
Yeah.
Oh. Like I'm like front to back because I don't want to get like I prefer nuts in my poop instead of poop on my nuts.
Well, you got two hands.
Yeah, that's true. Well, do you like hold like your nuts?
I'm not going to talk about it anymore than that.
Okay. All right. And the second question, like the serious one, like, have you heard of like this black hole theory, like that our universe is actually in the center of a black hole?
Yeah, it's one of those theories where it's not exactly like a solipsistic theory, like do we live in the Matrix, but it kind of is. So like nobody can tell you that that's wrong, and the reason is we don't know what the laws of physics inside of a black hole are. There are so many physics questions that I've heard, that I've come up with myself, that I think I'm going to get a mind-blowing answer out of this. And the physicists overwhelmingly, what they tell you is it doesn't work that way, or we don't know. So like, for example, one of these like favorite questions to get asked is, if you were traveling at the speed of light and you turned on a flashlight, what would you see? And the physicist just says, you can't travel at the speed of light. So your question is just invalid. It actually doesn't have an answer, you know? And so it's like if red looked blue, then what would blue look like? It's like, that's a crappy example. I just thought of it off the top of my head, but that isn't a question that can be answered, you know? In that case, it's a little bit different, but yeah, like these physics ones, half the time, the actual answer is we just have no idea. The other half of the time, the answer seems to be it doesn't work that way. It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard of it from Craig McNeil. Like I'm not sure if you heard of him. I just like that idea that we are inside like of a black hole and maybe we're in another universe. It's just one of those things that's just, titillating to the mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much all. Like I just want to come say, big fan. You're really funny, and like my most recent favorite quote of yours, is, like God can manifest as Darth Dawkins' divorce papers.
Yeah,
that shit was hilarious.
Next time, if I ever talk to him again, I'm going to use that line. He's going to say, "How do you know what is ontologically primary or whatever?" I'll just say, I'll say your divorce papers. And be like, you're just trolling. I'm like, no. If you believe God can believe himself in the form of a human body, then I can believe that which instantiates and substantiates all synthetic claims and is ontologically primary can manifest itself as your divorce papers. There's no logical problem with that. So there we go.
Yeah,
one of my favorite ones, it's kind of weird for me to have my own favorites. I have an all-time favorite quote, but one of my favorite ones, it came up in a video I posted yesterday on my other channel, my Clips channel. But I was talking to this flat earther and he was so incredibly stupid. He asked I was just pointing out the flaw in his logic by asking him of a question that even he knew was stupid. But I was forcing him to answer it because it's the same type of question he was asking me. And it was to expose his stupidity. And he kept not answering it. And then he would talk over me when I was trying to re-ask. So I muted him and I said, "Quit interrupting me while I'm gaslighting you." And then I proceeded to ask the question again. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, you're hilarious. I love you, dude. Like, keep doing what you're doing. You're funny, and I really just love your comedy style. Like butthole worms and all that, dude.
Yeah, butthole worms. Yeah, the necessary being.
Yeah, I would never want to get into like a conversation with someone like Darth Dawkins. I used to be kind of like him, like having arguments about like, oh, evolution's not true, you stupid theist. And then I actually developed my brain and like, oh, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that evolution happened, the Big Bang happened, not all that kind of stuff. So I like matured basically. And apparently that never happened to Gary.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't want to take it too much of your time. I know you want to get to bed, and I want to get back to playing Doom. So
Nice. All right. Thanks for coming up.
all right, thanks for having me.
Somebody once said of Darth, he's not an
Hello.
adult, he's just old. And I was like, yes, perfect. Hi, what's up?
Hello. I just want to can you hear me? Wait.
Yes.
Okay. So anyways, one thing I did notice, the person before who was like in the military, you asked if there was anything, and I do know that in the military when you're doing artillery stuff, they've been accounting for the curvature of the Earth since World War One. It's like a very standard thing, because when you start shooting stuff that far, you have to do it in order to get precise aiming. But anyways, so the reason I joined is I am like a naturalist. I don't believe in anything metaphysical, but I was wondering, like, why would there be such a natural intuition towards teleology, towards morality, towards stuff like that, where it's like we don't have clear lines of evidence towards it, and it's probably not true. I don't believe in teleology, but it's so intuitive and it's like kind of natural.
I think that is just an evolved instinct that we have. So people like to make this argument that evolution can't account for like rational brains because evolution doesn't select for the truth or anything like that. So evolution can't give you any reason to think what you think is true. That's actually a pretty powerful argument, because it's really hard to know what the hell to say to that. But I think it falls apart, and it helps address what you're talking about. So I'll try not to go like too in depth with this, but essentially, what does a brain do? Like, what do our senses do? They help construct models of reality in front of us. For all I know, everything around me really is black and white, but the colors I see help me distinguish different things in the environment. So it's still an accurate, like, the shapes and everything are preserved. The colors are maybe different or whatever. It doesn't actually really matter. But the construction of accurate models of the world in front of you is absolutely the kind of thing that natural selection could favor, because it's not hard at all to imagine that being a survival advantage, right? So, like, for example, some animals have very rudimentary eyes. They have blurry views of the world in front of them. Other animals have more sophisticated eyes and have more accurate models of the world in front of them. That's just a different kind of example, right? So I think the fact that our brains do that causes us to have a sort of innate sense of this, like, teleology that you're talking about. A really popular example that's used in evolutionary psychology is, if you were, let's say you were walking alone in the wilderness in the tall grass. Behind you, you hear the grass rustling. You're probably going to have a parasympathetic reaction to that. You're probably going to freak out, because there's an evolutionary explanation for this. You hear leaves rustling or the grass rustling. It could be the wind. It's probably more likely to be the wind, but it could be a predator. Running away from it, most of the time, you exerted energy for no reason, but that small percentage of the time that there was danger, it can save your life, right? So we have this idea that things around us that happen aren't causeless. And, like, that's kind of the wrong way to put it, because the wind isn't causeless, but there's nothing behind the wind, right? Whereas rustling in the grass, that could be a predator that has an intention of killing you, right? So that's not exactly a teleology, but I think it's
No, yeah, I see what you mean. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like one step away from it, where it's like if you just like add in where you just like you see a lot of things, you also then observe a lot of things where the reason why is because, oh, I wanted this, I had this goal. So then I think maybe it comes out of like an anthropomorphization of the universe, I guess. Then
Yeah, so that would
Okay.
be the next step where it gets extrapolated. So we have ingrained cognitive biases to assume that there's some kind of like intentionality behind what's going on around us, right? Then we get these fantastic minds that are capable of, taking that to a more extreme level. Like we can imagine that an extremely primitive group of Homo sapiens hundreds of thousands of years ago is walking around and they stumble upon some burnt wood inside of a cave. They're going to be smart enough to think, oh, people have been here, not that fire just randomly started for no reason, right? And then what we start doing is we start thinking, hey, wait a minute, why the hell did the volcano erupt? That really sucked. Am I being punished? Because that's the kind of anthropomorphization that would be typical for a human, right? Or why, I don't know, why is nature so beautiful? Well, I think it's beautiful. Therefore, something that either wanted me to think it's beautiful or also thinks it's beautiful is behind it. And it's a man in the sky, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as like especially with like how much religious arguments are then based on the whole teleology and morality and stuff like that. And yeah, okay, I can see that. I had a general like idea in my brain of where morality might come from because we're a social species, and then also like I don't know, like for example mereology, because like it would in terms of language be really hard to explain. Hand me that region of matter, but yeah, thank you. I was trying to figure that out, and that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I'll let you go. They let themselves go. All right, this is our last guest for the day, T-Ho.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I've been watching you for a while, and I really enjoy whenever you're performing in the debates. And I'm curious to how much time you spend preparing for those debates, because I feel like for some of your guests, whenever they're providing the counter evidence, particularly whenever you're like debating the flat earthers, you're very clear and succinct on the evidence that we have. And obviously their evidence is not very strong. But for people like, Dirth, Whitsitt, and all them, and providing all this just circulatory evidence, like, if you can help me navigate how you approach these debates, like, before you go into them.
So I don't do scheduled moderated debates hardly ever. I've been on modern day debates 3 times.
And I've seen them, and they're always good, but my God, they just don't listen.
I've done a couple of moderated debates on the Politics Discord server. For those, for the flat Earth ones, I didn't do very much prep. I did a couple of moderated debates on the Standing for Truth channel, 2 against Kent Hovind, 1 against Brian Lauer, 1 against T-Rock. For those debates, I put in many hours. But for the most part, the preparation for that, it's more tedious than it is hard work, because I know the evidence and stuff because I've talked about it a million times before. It's kind of a matter of compiling it. There have been times I've really thought hard about, like the first time I debated Kent, I cross-examined him. So I said, okay, I'm going to come up with the most devastating questions I can for him for his worldview, I'm going to force him to say, I have no idea, that he can't explain anything. And it worked perfectly. And I had to think really hard about what those were going to be. So for those, a huge amount of prep goes in. For all the other stuff, which is the vast majority of stuff, these are impromptu conversations. And I don't prepare for them. The reason I'm good at them is because I've just done so many hundreds of them. It's kind of like, you know, like a professional athlete, like a basketball player. If they just said, I'm going to go to the local gym and I'm just going to 1v1 everybody, their preparation for that is just all of the work that they do regularly, you know, because they don't know who they're going to play against. They're just going on basic skill for the game. And me, I'm just on kind of basic knowledge. So like my preparation it started off, I'm a science teacher. That was all the books I've read were the biggest prep for it, but I actually wasn't very good 3 years ago at doing these debates because there were a lot of talking points I had never heard before. And I can give you 20 ways the earth can't possibly be flat. 3 years ago, I probably could have only given you 5, you know? So I have had to sit down and think about them, but it's just kind of something that the preparation is just my experience in doing it, you know? So I don't set aside any amount of time really in my day to prepare for these things. I would say the knowledge I've absorbed just has had that effect, but I don't consider that like debate prep. Like, you know, I went to Barnes and Noble a couple weeks ago and I bought a whole bunch of books. One of them, which I don't know when I'm going to get around to. Oh, here's an example. Do you know who Dan McClellan is?
I do not.
Okay, he's a very popular TikTok Bible scholar. And so he came out with a book pretty recently called The Bible Says So. I'm currently reading it, and I probably will use some stuff in there to bolster some of my arguments. But I would have read that book anyways, you know? And I got this other book at Barnes and I was going to talk about. It's about the cognitive science between or the cognitive science. What's the name? I can't remember. It's called
That's all
like
right.
Psychology of Crime, and it's about like how we know what we know about brains and how that is a predictor of crime. And for me, that's just kind of, I think it's important to know those things instead of being an ignoramus that just goes around saying, oh, well, you know, those types, you know, no, it's not.
You're right. But I want to play MDD. I actually wasn't planning on actually talking to you when I joined the Streamlabs. It was just a way to watch it. It was the only way I could watch it. So I actually wasn't planning on jumping in to ask a question. But now that I'm here, and I've been wanting to ask you this question for the longest time, just around, you know, revolving around the debates. And I really appreciate the answers. I really appreciate the way that you debate. And I even think there was a video that you posted whenever you debated Kent, where there was a cross-examination period where I don't see in a lot of debates. And I'm hoping to see more of that because in watching you and other debate channels, I find it very frustrating that it feels like a lot of these debates really are just for the audience and you're just kind of hammering away at each other for like evidences and like, you know, that's all fun and good. And whenever you trash on someone, it's like tee-hee, but at the same time, can we actually like get to something substantive? Sure.
I'm taking credit for this, and I don't know how much of it.
And you should.
But I am taking credit for it because I started doing that with him. That's how it began, because I knew he was so incredibly dishonest. And I knew that if he was forced to answer my questions and he can't answer questions with questions and he doesn't get to decide what the topic is, that he would be utterly destroyed. And that is how you weed out people that are lying. The court systems figured this out a really long time ago. You get held in contempt if you try to screw with this process. And I demand that from people. And when I went on the politics server and debated Jim Bob, I said, I am not doing this unless there is cross-examination. And now people on the Discord or the politics Discord, when they do moderated debates, that's their thing. They're like, yeah, they got the inspiration for that from me. They're like, yeah, we think this is way better having cross-exam. Modern day debate doesn't really like it, but they do it sometimes. If you want to watch just a epic and hilarious takedown of just the most dishonest apologist, my friend Justin, Deconstruction Zone, debated this guy who goes by Wi-Fi Gospel on Modern Day Debate. And Justin, I don't know if he got the idea from me or not. I'm going to claim that he did. He said, we're doing cross-examination for this. And because of that, it made the other guy look so incredibly bad. And you read all the comments, and the comments are just flaming the apologist for how utterly pathetic his performance was.
That is awesome. And thank you for the recommendation. I hope that you do continue the debates. I hope to see more of them, particularly like in that format. I feel like it is actually the most useful in discourse, in my opinion, rather than just engaging in back and forth like one hitter. Oh, do you think of this? No. Well, I didn't think of that either, but did you think of this instead? The pivoting thing that they will do. So I just want to see more of that from you, because I feel like it's going to like bring more of that discourse forward. And I'm looking forward to it and to everything else you post, because I've been a fan for a while. So
yeah, we need more of that, because it weeds out people that are good at debates, but whose agenda isn't necessarily telling the truth. It's just being good at debating, you know, and it weeds out people that are just dishonest. So
it's so frustrating. Like, so not to bring it back to, you know, flat earthers, because they're the easiest one, but I always feel like it's just crossing that barrier of like, well, really, they're just Christians in disguise. And it's just, okay, are we having a flat earth debate, or are we having just like, well, I believe in God's word and this is what the Bible says? Well, we're not going to debate the Bible. So drives me nuts, but I'll still engage in it.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Maverick, I'm more of an Arma fan myself. Maverick, I've been playing Arma. I don't know if you've seen any of my streams, but I stream it every now and then. But let us know when you get into flat earth stuff, Pete, so I can get pissed off again. No, I love Arma. I'm doing an Anastasi playthrough on Altus right now. And I've almost got the whole island conquered. I'm getting pretty close. I'm thinking in less than 20 hours I could get the whole island conquered. And I'm talking about like 100%ing the island, not just meeting the win parameters, which is just capturing all the Air Force bases and military bases. I mean, everything. I'll take a couple of these real quick before I get out of here. Do you think an evil government is better than no government at all? I think it can be, as far as like what's more likely to good outcomes. I don't know. I mean, was fascism worse than anarchy? Well, it carried out one of the most horrendous events in modern human history, and it's not even really very close. Now, what would anarchy have looked like? Could 7 million people have died because of anarchy? And I mean, Germany initiated World War II, which ultimately killed 40 million people, something like that. Could complete anarchy and statelessness have done that? Well, I don't know. It seems like it could. Funny enough, it probably couldn't. Because an anarchic system probably cannot grow complex enough to be a big enough industrialized society where you can inflict that much death. So I don't know. I don't know. That's hard to say. Why don't we bring up other cultures when flippers and new earth creationists make their arguments? I mean, I do sometimes. I don't know specifically what that even means, though. I don't really know what that. What this person keeps talking about getting 50 subs? Like, do your own promo. quit using my platform. I'm not a billboard. Spain wants to talk to me? Wait, what? Spain? The country? I'm so confused. Anyways, well, I'm going to... I don't know if anarchy can sustain itself inherently, though. I mean... Oh, no, yeah, you said anarchy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The reason I don't think this is as simple of a question to answer is because we know for a fact that the rate of death from violence in pre-civilized societies was astronomically high. There weren't as many people alive back then, and they didn't carry out the kind of like industrialized killings like what you like in the horrors we've seen in the last couple hundred years by any means. But still, your odds of being of dying a violent death were exponentially higher in pre-civilized societies than they are today. So, like, weirdly, even I've actually looked into this. Even if you look at Poland during World War II, even if you zoom in Poland and Russia, where we saw some of the highest concentrations of death, the death rate from violence in those countries in the worst conflict in modern human history is still lower than it is in many, 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 many known archaeological sites. So that isn't to say that that's what like pre-civilized societies aren't necessarily what anarchy is, but, and that's what this person's asked. But it's a fair analysis because anarchy, I don't know, that's just how I feel. My brain is melting. It's been 2 hours and 41 minutes. Maverick will have to arm us sometime and talk about the intricacies of the flat earth model. Yeah. Once I finally get around to figuring out how to do port forwarding on my router, then we can. I have a whole bunch of jets, but I don't know how to fly them on Arma. So I need somebody to help me conquer the island. I've done all this work without any aircraft. Okay, well, that's it for me. And enjoy the outro music, everybody. It is the extended version of my intro song. Later.